His mother's breathing machine keeps time with my confession. Whoosh-click, inhale. Whoosh-click, exhale. Between the mechanical breaths, I watch my words land on my husband's face like shrapnel, each syllable carefully chosen to inflict maximum damage while his mother lies dying 10 feet away in her hospice bed. "I never wanted children with you," I tell him, my voice steady as a surgeon's hand. "The miscarriage 3 years ago? I was relieved, Thomas, relieved." The hospice room smells like industrial disinfectant and impending death. Outside, Memphis rain hammers against windows that don't open. Thomas sits in the uncomfortable visitor's chair he's occupied for 72 straight hours, holding his mother's hand while I destroy him with the truth he never asked to hear. His face doesn't change immediately. Shock works that way. A delayed fuse before the explosion. He's still processing, still trying to reconcile the woman saying these words with the one who cried in his arms after we lost the baby. The one who let him name it. Samuel for a boy, Rose for a girl, even though we never knew which it was. "What?" The word comes out cracked, confused, like I've started speaking a foreign language. "You heard me." I shift in my chair, the vinyl squeaking against my dress. The black dress I bought for her funeral, worn early for this pre-death vigil. I was relieved when I lost the baby. Relieved I wouldn't be tied to you forever. Now the fuse catches. His eyes, red-rimmed from 3 days of deathbed watching, focus on me with a new, sharp clarity. Behind him, Margaret, his mother, my mother-in-law, the woman who taught me her cornbread recipe and called me the daughter she never had, continues her mechanical breathing, unaware that her son's marriage is flatlining beside her. "Why are you saying this?" Thomas's voice stays quiet. Even now, even as I gut him with words sharp as surgical tools, he won't raise his voice in his mother's presence. "Why now?" "Why now? Because you won't leave. Because your mother is dying and you still won't leave her bedside, won't go home, won't eat, won't sleep. Because I've spent 3 days watching you pour out love that should be finite but isn't, and it makes me sick with something I refuse to name as jealousy. But the real reason goes deeper. Yesterday, your Aunt Martha came by with photo albums, sat here flipping through pages while you dozed in your chair, showing me pictures of you as a boy. "He was always like this," she'd said, pointing to a photo of 8-year-old you reading to Margaret in a hospital bed. "Even then, always taking care of everybody." And I'd seen it, the invisible chain that connects you to everyone who needs you. Saw how it started with her, this woman who raised you alone after your father left, who worked 3 jobs to put you through college, who called you her miracle baby because she'd had 4 miscarriages before you stuck. "My miracle," she'd whispered yesterday during one of her lucid moments, gripping your hand. "My boy, who stayed." The boy who stayed. While your father left, while your stepfather drank himself to death, while boyfriend after boyfriend walked out on her, you stayed. And now you're staying again, holding vigil over her death like you've held vigil over her life. "Because I'm tired of pretending," I say instead. "Tired of playing the grieving almost mother. Tired of you bringing it up every time we talk about the future. I haven't mentioned it in months. But you think about it. I see it in your face every time you see a baby at the grocery store, every time your cousin posts pictures of her kids on Facebook, every time we pass the Yellow Duck preschool on Maple Street. You slow down, Thomas. You slow down and look. It's true. He does. And each time he does, I feel the weight of his unspoken longing, his carefully contained grief for the child we almost had, the child I almost wanted until I didn't." Margaret's breathing hitches. The machine beeps once, twice, then resumes its rhythm. Thomas turns back to her, checking monitors, adjusting blankets, being the good son he's been for 43 years. The son who moved back to Memphis to care for her, who gave up a job at Microsoft in Seattle, a job he'd worked toward his entire career, to manage her treatment, who chose his mother over our life together and expected me to understand. I understood, I just didn't forgive. She's stabilizing, he murmurs, more to himself than to me. The nurse said these episodes are normal near the end. Normal. Nothing about this is normal. Not the way he's memorized every beep and alarm. Not the way he's learned to read her pain in the micro-expressions of her unconscious face. Not the way he's created a whole life in this 10 by 12 room. Phone charger by the window, laptop balanced on the radiator, clean shirts in a duffel bag because he won't leave long enough to go home and change properly. When he turns back to me, something has shifted in his expression. The shock has metabolized into something harder to read. "The night we lost the baby," he says slowly, "you held on to me like you were drowning. You said—" He stops, swallows. "You said losing it was like losing a piece of your soul." I'm a good actress. The lie tastes metallic. Truth is, I wasn't acting that night. The grief was real, overwhelming, unexpected. I'd convinced myself I didn't want Thomas's baby, but my body's betrayal taught me otherwise. The relief came later, weeks later, when the fog cleared and I realized I'd been spared a lifetime shackle. I remember the exact moment the relief hit. We were at Target, shopping for a birthday present for his nephew. We passed the baby section, and Thomas had slowed, his hand hovering over a tiny pair of yellow socks. "Would have been about this size by now," he'd said softly. And I'd felt it, the loosening in my chest, the absence of the panic that had gripped me during those 12 weeks of pregnancy. No midnight feedings, no loss of identity, no being forever tethered to this man who loved so completely it felt like drowning. But he doesn't need to know about the complexity of grief and relief intertwining like DNA strands. He needs to believe the simple cruelty I'm offering, needs to finally see me as someone worth leaving. 3 years, he says wonderingly. 3 years of letting me believe we shared that loss. Letting me grieve alone while you, celebrated? I wouldn't say celebrated. I examine my nails, a performance of indifference. More like exhaled. The polish is chipped on my ring finger. I painted them yesterday in the hospital bathroom, Margaret's favorite shade of coral, a detail Thomas noticed and appreciated with tears in his eyes. "She'd love that you remembered," he'd said. Now the chip looks like evidence of my decay, visible proof of the ugly beneath the surface. Margaret's hand twitches in his. "Some deep reflex," the nurses said. "Not conscious movement." But Thomas lifts her fingers to his lips anyway, kisses them gently, whispers something I can't hear. The tenderness of it makes my stomach clench. This is why I'm doing this devotion that flows from him like water from an endless spring. He'll sit here until she dies, days, weeks, months if necessary. Then he'll grieve properly, thoroughly, with the same dedication he brings to everything. And I'll be expected to support him, comfort him, be the wife who understands that some love transcends marriage vows. I've been that wife for 8 years, 8 years of coming second to his family obligations, his mother's needs, his brother Danny's addiction recovery, 6 stints in rehab, 6 times Thomas paid, 6 times he drove to Little Rock in the middle of the night because Danny called threatening suicide. His father's dementia care until he passed last spring, confused and combative, not recognizing the son who spent every weekend driving to the memory care facility in Jackson. "Remember when we first started dating?" I continue, each word calculated to cut deeper. "You told me your family would always come first. I thought it was sweet, devoted. I didn't realize you meant it literally." "My mother is dying, Andrea." "Your mother has been dying for 2 years. The doctors gave her 6 months, and here we are. 24 months of treatments and trials and hope that should have run out $20,000 ago. And here you are. And here I am, watching my husband choose her over me again and again, and she's my mother." The words explode from him, loud enough that the hospice nurse peeks in. He waves her away, turns back to me with tears streaming down his face. "She's dying, Actually dying, how can you— Because I'm honest. Finally, blessedly honest. I stand, smooth my death dress, gather my purse. You want to know the truth? The whole truth? I stayed after the miscarriage because I felt guilty. Guilty for being relieved, guilty for not wanting what you wanted. But guilt isn't love, Thomas. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. He's staring at me like I've shapeshifted into something unrecognizable, which maybe I have. Maybe this is what I've always been beneath the performance of devoted wife. This creature capable of using his mother's death as the backdrop for marital destruction. You want to know something else? I'm on a roll now, the words flowing like poison from a burst dam. That night you proposed? At your mother's 60th birthday party? In front of your whole family? I wanted to say no. I knew even then that I wasn't built for the kind of love you offer. But I was 31 and scared of being alone, and your mother was crying with joy and everyone was clapping, and so I said yes. I said yes, knowing I was signing up for a life I didn't want. The memory floods back uninvited. The backyard strung with lights. The barbecue smoke mixing with Margaret's perfume as she hugged me, whispering, I prayed for this. Prayed for Thomas to find someone who deserved him. Even then, the word deserved had sat wrong in my chest. So what? He asks. You're leaving? Now? While my mother— No. And here's the cruelest twist. I'm not leaving. I know you, Thomas. You won't divorce a woman who stuck by you through your mother's death. Won't add that grief to this grief. So I'll stay. Play the supportive wife through the funeral, help you clean out her house, hold you while you cry, and then, when enough time has passed that it won't seem connected, when you've processed your loss and think we're rebuilding, then I'll leave. With half of everything and your blessing, because you'll think it's your fault somehow. You always do. The calculated cruelty of it hangs between us like a poisonous cloud. I watch him absorb not just what I've said, but what I am. Someone capable of planning emotional terrorism with the precision of a military campaign. I know about Seattle, I add, the final twist of the knife. The real offer, not the paltry one you told me about. The junior position that paid barely more than you make here. The senior architect role. The one heading the new sustainable housing initiative. Your dream job. The one you turned down without even telling me it existed. His face goes white. How? Your laptop was open, email right there. Saw the whole thread with James, saw him begging you to reconsider. This opportunity won't come again, Thomas. But you'd already decided, hadn't you? Margaret needed you. Memphis needed you. Everyone needed you except your wife, who might have wanted a life in Seattle, who might have wanted you to choose us, just once. You never said you wanted to leave Memphis. You never asked. You announced we were staying, framed it like there was no real choice, and I went along because that's what I do. Go along, smile, pretend your sacrifices are our own. Pretend I'm the kind of woman who finds nobility in giving up dreams for family obligations. Why? He asks finally. Why tell me this? Why not just pretend? Keep pretending until you leave? Because I can't stand another minute of your goodness. Because watching you love your mother makes me hate myself for not loving you the way you deserve. Because I'm 35 years old and suffocating in a life I chose but never wanted. But the deepest truth is uglier. Yesterday, when Martha showed those photos, there was one of you at my age. 35, standing in front of the house you'd just bought for Margaret after her third back surgery. You looked so proud, so accomplished. Got Mama a place with no stairs, you'd told the camera. And I'd done the math. You were my age, already sacrificing, already choosing her over yourself. And I'd realized that in 35 years you'd learned something I never had. How to love selflessly. The thought had made me sick. Actually physically sick. I'd run to the bathroom and vomited, then stared at myself in the mirror. 35 and selfish and incapable of the kind of love that comes so naturally to you. Because you asked me to be here, I say instead. To sit in this room and watch her die and support you through it. And I realized I'd rather hurt you now, while you're already hurting, than pretend for another year. Consider it efficiency, consolidating your grief. He laughs. Actually laughs, though it sounds like breaking glass. Efficiency. You're destroying our marriage for efficiency. I destroyed our marriage the day I said yes to your proposal. Everything since has been delayed demolition. Margaret's breathing changes. Shorter, shallower. The nurse returns, checks vitals, makes notes. Her name is Patricia, I remember suddenly. She has 3 kids and drives from Corinth every day because the pay is better here. Thomas knows all this because Thomas talks to everyone, remembers everything, treats every person like they matter. Patricia speaks to Thomas in the gentle tones reserved for the soon-to-be bereaved. His attention shifts entirely to his mother, our conversation abandoned for the more pressing matter of death. I should leave. I've detonated my bombs, achieved my cruelty. But I sit back down, watch Thomas stroke his mother's hair, murmur comfort to someone who probably can't hear him. His love is so pure, so uncomplicated, it makes my chest ache. This is what I'm incapable of, this unselfish devotion, this willingness to pour yourself out for someone else without keeping score, without resentment, without calculating the return on emotional investment. Thomas loves like breathing, naturally and necessarily. I love like drowning, desperate and destructive. She liked you, he says suddenly, not looking at me. From the first time I brought you home. Said you had sad eyes, but a good heart. Said you'd take care of me. I remember that dinner, how nervous I'd been, how Margaret had taken my hand and said, "Don't worry, honey, we're just regular people." How she'd made my favorite dessert after Thomas mentioned it. How she'd given me her grandmother's ring to wear at our wedding. "It should stay with the women who love my boy," she'd said. The ring sits in my jewelry box now, unworn for 2 years. Too heavy with meaning I couldn't carry. Your mother was wrong about a lot of things. Was she wrong about the sad eyes? The question catches me off guard. In 8 years of marriage, through countless fights and reconciliations, Thomas has never asked about my sadness. He's tried to fix it, cure it, love it away. But he's never simply acknowledged it as a permanent part of me. No, I admit. She wasn't wrong about that. But the good heart? Buried too deep to matter. He nods, like this makes sense. Like he's solving a puzzle he's been working on for years. Margaret's breathing grows more erratic. The nurse, Patricia, makes a phone call, speaks in coded medical language that means the end is near. "You should call your brother," I say. "He'll want to be here." "Already did. He's on his way from Little Rock." Of course he did. Thomas thinks of everything, everyone, always. Even now, sitting in the rubble of our marriage, he's managing other people's needs. "I did love you," I find myself saying. The words surprise us both. In the beginning, as much as I'm capable of loving anyone, it just wasn't enough. You needed more than I could give. I never asked for more. You didn't have to. It radiated from you. This expectation of partnership, of building something together. Every decision you made included me, considered me. Do you know how exhausting it is to be considered constantly? He looks at me then, really looks at me. Most people want to be considered by their spouse. Most people aren't me. No, he agrees. They're not. Margaret makes a sound. Not quite a word, not quite a moan. Thomas is instantly attentive, holding her hand, speaking softly. "I'm here, Mama. I'm right here. Danny's coming. We're all here." She settles, but the damage is done. I've watched something crack open in Thomas's face. Not pain from my cruelty, but something worse. Love. Still, somehow impossibly love. For his dying mother, for his broken marriage, for me, the woman systematically destroying him. "She waited," he says quietly. "The doctors don't understand how she held on this long. But I know. She was waiting to make sure I'd be okay. Making sure I had..." He gestures vaguely at me, at the space where our marriage used to exist. She can go now that she knows I won't have anyone. The cruelty of my timing hits fully. I've given Margaret permission to die by showing her son he'll be alone. I've freed her from the obligation of staying alive for him by demonstrating that I won't be here when she's gone. "I need you to go," he says quietly. "Not forever. I'm not kicking you out, but I need you to go now. Let me have this last bit with her without—" He gestures vaguely at the space between us, the minefield I've laid. I stand again, and this time I mean it. "I'll be at home. Take whatever time you need." "Home," he repeats, like the word is foreign. "Is that what it is for you?" "It's where I live. That's not the same thing." "No, I agree. It's not." I'm at the door when he speaks again. "Andrea, what you said about the miscarriage, about being relieved, was any of it real? The grief?" I could lie. Could give him this one mercy, let him keep one untainted memory. But I've come this far in my cruelty. The grief was real, so was the relief. Both things can be true. He nods slowly. "Both things can be true," he repeats, "like loving someone and destroying them." Yes. "Is that what this is? You destroying me because you love me?" "No." I grip the door handle. "This is me destroying you because I can, because you'll let me. Because even now, even after everything I've said, you're looking for reasons to forgive me." "I'm not—" "You are. It's who you are, Thomas. You forgive, you endure, you stay, and I can't stand it anymore." His mother's breathing machine continues its rhythm. Whoosh click, the soundtrack to the end of two things, a life and a marriage. Both necessary losses, but only one mourned properly. I leave him there with his dying mother and his shattered illusions. Drive home through Memphis rain that turns the world watercolor soft. Park in the driveway of the house we bought together, where we planted tomatoes that never grew and painted the kitchen yellow because it made me smile. Inside, everything waits in suspended animation. Coffee cups from this morning in the sink. His black, mine with too much cream. His reading glasses on the side table, bookmark keeping his place in a biography of Frank Lloyd Wright. The sympathy cards for Margaret arranged on the mantel, their pastel condolences mocking me. I pick up one card, read the inscription. "Thinking of you both during this difficult time." Margaret was lucky to have such a devoted son and daughter-in-law. Love the Hendersons. Devoted daughter-in-law. I've played the part well, visited every Sunday, brought her favorite banana pudding from that place on Beale Street. Listened to the same stories about Thomas's childhood, pretending I hadn't heard them dozens of times before. All performance, all lies, all building to this moment when I'd reveal myself as the monster I've always been. I pour wine, the good bottle we were saving for something special. This seems special enough. The end of things deserves good wine. My phone buzzes. Thomas. "She's gone." 2 words. No accusation, no anger, no plea for me to return. Just information, shared out of habit or obligation or that damnable consideration that runs through him like marrow. I stare at the text, waiting to feel something. Victory, maybe, or guilt, or relief that my timing was slightly off. She died naturally, not because of what I'd revealed. But I feel nothing, just the same emptiness that's lived in my chest for years, the hollow where normal people keep their capacity for genuine emotion. "I'm sorry," I text back. And I am. Sorry for Margaret, who deserved a better daughter-in-law. Sorry for Thomas, who deserved a better wife. Sorry for myself, who couldn't be either. He doesn't respond. I don't expect him to. I sit in our yellow kitchen and drink expensive wine and wait. For Thomas to come home. For the funeral to plan. For the performance of grief to begin. I've become an expert at performing emotions I don't quite feel. Love, contentment, maternal longing. Adding daughterly sorrow to the repertoire should be simple enough. But first, this moment, this quiet between dying and mourning, between confession and consequence. I told him the truth because I thought he'd never leave, thought his devotion was a cage I could rattle but never break, thought his love was weakness I could exploit indefinitely. Margaret knew better. Sad eyes, but a good heart, she'd said. Wrong on the second count, but maybe that's the real sadness, knowing exactly what kind of heart beats in my chest and choosing cruelty anyway. The rain stops. Afternoon light breaks through clouds, painting the kitchen golden, beautiful and temporary like everything else. Tomorrow I'll play the grieving daughter-in-law. Next week I'll be the supportive wife. Next month I'll help him sort through Margaret's belongings, decide what to keep and what to donate. I'll find that photo album Martha brought, see those pictures of young Thomas again, and feel only the weight of my own performance. But tonight, in this yellow kitchen with this good wine, I'll sit with the truth I weaponized. The miscarriage I was relieved to suffer. The marriage I'm too cowardly to leave but too cruel to maintain. The man whose only crime was loving me completely while I loved him conditionally, partially, with an asterisk that read, "Until something better comes along." Nothing better came along. Nothing worse, either. Just this. A life of adequate happiness I'm too broken to appreciate and too proud to release. The doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Danny, red-eyed, soaked from rain, looking lost. He must have come here first, not knowing Thomas was still at the hospice. "She's gone," he says when I open the door. "Mom's gone. Is Thomas?" "He's still there, with her." Danny nods, rain dripping from his recovery-thin frame. 2 years sober this time, the longest stretch yet. I should go. Be with him. Yes, I agree. You should. He turns to leave, then stops. "Andrea, thank you. For everything. Thomas told me how you've been there, helping with Mom. He said he couldn't have done it without you. The irony is suffocating. He could have. He would have, with or without me. Maybe, but he didn't have to. That matters." He leaves me with that, the idea that presence matters even when it's poisoned, that showing up counts even when you show up wrong, that being there physically while absent emotionally still registers as support in the accounting of grief. My phone buzzes again. A longer text from Thomas. "Danny's here. We're handling arrangements. Stay home. Rest. This is going to be a long few days. Despite everything, I love you." Despite everything, I love you. 6 words that damn us both. Him for still feeling them. Me for receiving them without reciprocation. The words sit on my screen like an indictment of everything I am and everything I'm not. I pour more wine. Think about the baby we lost, the future we almost had. Remember the weight of possibility growing inside me, the terror of it, the relief when it ended. Remember Thomas buying those yellow socks anyway, keeping them in his dresser drawer like a shrine to what might have been. I know where they are. Top drawer, left side, under his workout shirts. Sometimes I see him hold them, just for a moment before carefully putting them back. He doesn't know I know. Doesn't know I check sometimes to see if he's finally thrown them away. He never has. 3 years of yellow socks in a drawer. 3 years of him grieving alone while I pretended to grieve beside him. 3 years of relief, masquerading as sorrow, until today when I finally told the truth at the worst possible moment in the cruelest possible way. The wine is nearly gone when I realize I'm crying. Not for Margaret, who lived a good life and died surrounded by love. Not for Thomas, who'll survive this like he survives everything, with grace and faith and the support of people who actually care about him. I'm crying for the woman I might have been, the one who could have loved Thomas properly, who could have grieved our baby honestly, who could have sat in that hospice room and held his hand and meant it. The woman Margaret thought she saw in me, the one with sad eyes but a good heart. That woman died sometime between I do and I was relieved. killed by 1,000 small betrayals, 1,000 moments of choosing self over us, 1,000 times I could have been better but wasn't. Thomas will forgive me. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but eventually. He'll process his mother's death and our marriage's destruction, and somehow find a way to understand why I chose that moment to detonate our life. He'll probably blame himself for neglecting me during his mother's illness, for asking too much, for not seeing my unhappiness sooner. And I'll let him, because that's what I do. I let Thomas carry weight that isn't his, solve problems I create, forgive sins I'll commit again. It's a special kind of cruelty, this letting him love me despite myself. But it's the only kind I know. The house is dark when I finally stop drinking, stop crying, stop pretending I'm anything other than what I've proven myself to be. Tomorrow begins the elaborate performance of widowhood by proxy, of standing by Thomas as he buries his mother, of accepting condolences for a loss I can't properly feel. But tonight I sit in the darkness and think about breathing machines and breaking points, about the precise moment to inflict maximum damage, about a man who'll never leave and a woman who'll never deserve his staying. I thought he'd never leave, so I said it. The worst truth at the worst time in the worst way possible. But Thomas Patterson doesn't leave. He stays. He forgives. He loves. And that's the cruelest thing of all, because it means I'll have to leave. Eventually. When the guilt becomes unbearable, or the performance too exhausting, or the next opportunity for cruelty presents itself, I'll leave and he'll let me, and he'll probably apologize for not being enough. But not yet. First, we bury Margaret. First, we play out this final act of our marriage. First, I help him grieve the mother who loved him perfectly, all while hiding that I'm the wife who loved him barely at all. The rain starts again. Soft Memphis rain that sounds like breathing machines and broken promises. Somewhere across town, Thomas is making arrangements, choosing caskets, being the good son one last time. And I'm here, in our yellow kitchen, being exactly what I've always been. The woman who knew he'd never leave, who said the unforgivable because forgiveness was guaranteed, who weaponized truth at the weakest moment because causing pain was easier than examining why I needed to cause it. Sad eyes, Margaret said. She got that right. But the heart? The heart is exactly as black as I've proven it to be. And the saddest part is that Thomas will love me anyway, despite the evidence, despite the cruelty, despite everything. That's his curse, and mine is knowing it.